the F out.
All right, welcome to episode number 32 of the ECWF podcast. We will not get the F out, we put the F back in. I am your host, Sean Bicking, coming to you from the Electric City, Scranton, Pennsylvania. And in this episode, I was joined by my guest, Craven Varro. We talk horror movies, metal music. Oh yeah, we talk some wrestling, from PWS with Pat Buck to WrestlePro and the beef that's going on between the two promotions currently. Plus working with Harlem Heat and Bullet Club, Anderson and Gallows. Plus his neck injury and rib injuries that he's currently working on coming back from. And a whole lot more. So, enjoy. Back on the podcast here with Craven Varro, and came up on the phone New Jersey, but you're originally from around Philly, right?
I am from Jersey, but I am from right outside of Philly. I live in Voorhees, about under 20 minutes outside of Philly.
Oh, okay, but that's still, Voorhees is New Jersey.
Yeah, it's on the Jersey side.
Okay, because I saw that, and I thought that was like a gimmick name at first, because obviously Jason, and I was like, that can't be a real town. I thought that was just for the character, but...
Yeah, believe it or not, it's a real town. Actually, my area has a lot of things that inspired classic horror movies, actually. A lot of Friday the 13th stuff. The original Friday the 13th was filmed in New Jersey. They got the name Crystal Lake because there's actually a Crystal Lake down here in South Jersey, actually about 10 minutes away from my house. And the name Voorhees, same thing, came from Voorhees, New Jersey. And then Halloween, Deborah Hill, who helped John Carpenter write the movie, she's from around here too, so that's why the town is Haddonfield, because one town over for me is Haddonfield, New Jersey. They transferred that to Haddonfield, Illinois for the movie.
Michael
so
Myers.
A lot of horror history around here, actually.
Wow, yeah, so did that have an influence on you, like, kind of growing up around there?
Oh, absolutely, man. I mean, I always loved horror movies. I've always been a real big Halloween time kind of guy. You know, I like to go to a lot of haunted houses. I always decorate my house, try to make it look real cool for Halloween, you know, because I always loved Halloween as a kid, too. You know, there's a lot of families around where I live, a lot of trick-or-treaters, so it's always cool to have them walk by the house, like, oh, that house looks cool, you know. I've always loved Halloween and horror movies and all that kind of stuff, so, yeah, I mean, it's almost circumstantial that all this history is around here, because, I mean, the kind of dude I am, I would have loved horror movies one way or another.
Right.
But yeah, it's just a cool little extra, the fact that I live around so many things that inspired names for iconic horror movies.
Now, are you like a big movie buff, like horror movie-wise?
Oh, absolutely. I mean, movies in general as well. You know, I took... the high school I went to had a lot of really good electives, so I actually had I had my regular English class. In a few years I had like a separate writing class that was like for TV and like news and that kind of stuff, so I learned how to write scripts, that kind of thing. And then obviously like your general media class, learning how to shoot and edit film and all that. So I actually had all that available to me in high school, so I studied that kind of stuff for a while and just grew up just loving movies and TV, and I'm still the same way, you know, like, I'm die hard, you know, like Walking Dead and Game of Thrones fan, all that kind of stuff.
Oh, nice, okay. I wanted to ask you real quick about the Jason and even Michael Myers, like, what do you think of, like, the newer ones compared to the older ones?
I mean, I'd have to say that the original John Carpenter's Halloween from 1978 is like my all-time favorite movie.
Nice.
And I think that the movies held up pretty well for a while. I mean, like 1 and 2 are obviously great. They both are supposed to take place on the same night. John Carpenter did both of those. But Halloween 3 doesn't have Michael Myers in it. And then Halloween 4 and 5, you know, 4 was better than 5. And then 6 is like the version. It's one of those movies where the version that came out in theaters kind of sucked. But then when you see the director's cut, with all the stuff they cut out of it, it makes a lot more sense. It's like, oh, this movie's actually pretty good now. It was actually Paul Rudd's first movie. The guy plays Ant-Man.
Yep.
That was his first movie. Was Halloween 6.
Mm-hmm.
And then H2O was great, and then Resurrection was just horrible. Like the one with, I mean, the first 10 minutes is great, where they tie up all the Michael Myers, Laurie Strode loose ends and everything.
Yeah.
And the rest of the movie is just like the worst Halloween movie ever.
Is that the one with Josh Hartnett in it?
No, that's H2O.
Oh,
that was
okay,
actually pretty good. And that's actually Josh Hartnett's first movie, too.
Wow.
One thing I like about the Halloween series is they always, like, kickstart promising young actors' careers. Like, it was Jamie Lee Curtis's first movie in 1978.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, then the Rob Zombie movies, you know, it's good that they're separate because they're so different than the other ones. And I think the Rob Zombie universe is pretty cool, obviously. And the second one, a lot of things probably should have been a little different, got a little weird in the second one. But, I mean, you know, all in all, it's like one of my absolute favorite film franchises of all time. And it's hard to rank Friday the 13th just because, like, they're intentionally campy.
Right.
You know? So the corny ones, you kind of can't even knock for being corny because they're kind of like, it's almost like they're making fun of themselves at certain points.
Yeah.
But, I mean, the third Friday the 13th, where he finally gets the hockey mask, I mean, that one is like, amazing.
Mm-hmm.
I love 4. 5 is terrible.
Yeah.
6 is pretty good, and then they kind of fall apart after 6.
Yeah, I think it was like
Kevin, Jason.
Manhattan in there somewhere, and
Yeah, exactly. 7's the one with like the girl with the telekinesis.
Yeah.
What? You get magical powers in these movies now, and then 8 with Jason Takes Manhattan is just like, oh.
Yeah.
And then 9 is just kind of weird. Like 9 is Jason Goes to Hell.
Right.
And
Sets
it's
up.
not bad, but it's just so different, and it's shot like a 90s movie, so it doesn't have any of the feel of the other movies, so it's kind of like the odd one out. And then they had Jason X, where he goes into space, and it's just like, all right. Just end this already. And then, you know, the remake is weird because it has, like, the best opening of any horror movie ever. The first 15 minutes of the remake is almost like a little mini-movie.
Yeah.
It's just Jason slaying people.
Mm-hmm.
And then, like, when he finally kills the last person, the Friday 13th logo comes up, and you're like, oh, my God, that was just the intro. This is going to be awesome.
Yeah.
And then it just drags for 2 hours, and it's like, oh, they probably should have just expanded the intro and made that the movie, because the rest of this movie is kind of...
Right. That's very impressive that you could remember each one like that.
Oh, man, I grew up with all these. I mean, it's the same thing with Texas Chainsaw Massacre and Nightmare on Elm Street, you know. Those are just things that I've seen so many times, you know, because I watch them, you know, pretty much every, like, you know, second half of September to, you know, first half of November, like all, like, September, October, November, I'm watching all that kind of stuff.
Nice.
Going to, you know, I love all that kind of stuff.
Now, I think you're around the same age as me. I'm 30.
A little younger, yeah.
Okay, but, like, my kids... Oh, my son, he's 8, and he watches, like, the older movies now, and he just laughs at it. And I'm thinking, like, when I was your age, I was freaked out by this stuff, like, generally, like, scared and, like, afraid to go to bed, stuff like that. And you're sitting there, like, laughing at it. Like, now, at your age, I'm like, I can't imagine.
Yeah, he's probably going to end up loving it, because that's how I was when I was a kid, too. Like, it scared me a little bit. Like, I would jump when I'm watching the movies, but then I would, like, smile and be happy. Like, they fascinated me.
Yeah.
You know? So he'll probably end up loving that stuff too. But I can totally see that. I can relate to your stuff.
Nice. Okay. Well, this is a wrestling podcast, so I guess we have to talk a little bit of wrestling. People get mad at me if I don't, but I could talk movies all day actually. But
I hear you.
Okay, so you kind of started out like you were a backyarder, is that right?
Yeah, but not like, you know, there's 2 kinds of backyarders. There's, the people that just kind of have fun with their friends in their backyard. And then there's the people that, like, get real serious about it once they're adults and kind of, like, try to make their backyard promotion legitimate.
Mm-hmm.
I was the first kind.
Okay.
Like, I mean, when I was growing up, I did amateur wrestling and martial arts and all kinds of stuff, you know. So, and it was all just to be better at pro wrestling. And me and my friends from the time I was like, you know, like elementary school all the way through middle school and high school, like me and my friends, like a few times a week would go in my backyard, and we had like a makeshift ring set up at first, and then as time progressed, I had like a wrestling room in my house, and then as it went further along, I got like a trampoline, and I kind of like rigged up the trampoline to look like a ring with like 4 pillars on the sides,
Okay.
so we could jump off of it and then wrap rope around it and everything, and then another one of my friends in my league had a trampoline in his house in the same neighborhood. And then a third friend, one neighborhood over, had a trampoline. So we almost had like 3 venues that we would run.
Nice.
We're like, right, because all 3 of us had a trampoline and they were all different.
Uh-huh.
Like my one buddy had like one of those slide swing set combos right next to us. So we would climb up like the ladder on the slide and use that as the top rope and that kind of stuff. And, it's crazy because trampolines are, you know, there's so much give on a trampoline. You guys can do almost whatever you want to each other, and you're not going to get hurt.
Mm-hmm.
So we were like, you know, like pile driving each other off the top of slide ladders onto, you know, stuff that you can't really do too much in pro wrestling. You know, staying safe.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah. And then I mean, once it was around the time to graduate high school, me and like a few of the other guys were in the league, like. Our band kind of took off. We went on tour and everything, so that was kind of the end of that. And that's actually why I never ended up training when I was younger, like right when I got out of high school.
Okay.
Because it kind of took me a different way. So there was like a good like 6 years in between graduating high school and or just music and being in a band was my life and everything. And so like I started training and like actually started wrestling again. So like. Yeah, my backyard wrestling was very like the little kid kind of backyard wrestling where it's just you and your friends having fun out back. I mean, we went pretty crazy with it. We just never tried to like run shows or sell tickets or like get ourselves booked onto like actual wrestling shows. We didn't do any of that kind of stuff. It was just very self-contained and you know, it was fun.
Yeah. Was there ever a name at all to the promotion, like your little backyard, or no?
Yeah, it was XTW, Extreme Trampoline Wrestling.
Okay,
Once
nice.
we had like the 3 different trampoline venues that we would run.
Okay, and what was your wrestling name then? What were you going under?
I was Jeff Decay, which was kind of like my punk rock name, because when I was like 14, I wasn't really talented enough to play metal music yet. So, you know, I'd only been playing guitar for like 2 years at that point, so like some good basic punk was all I could really get, like, songwriting-wise at that age.
Mm-hmm.
So we kind of did, like, the Sex Pistols, Ramones kind of thing, and, like, you know, came up with our, like, punk gimmick names and, like, did, like, a little, like, 14-year-old punk band, and that kind of translated over into my wrestling.
Okay, nice. You said, you've been playing music...
Between all of this, actually, just mind you, between all of this, I'm actually on my high school's wrestling team.
Oh, wow.
So it's like I'm doing the backyard wrestling and the band thing and amateur wrestling all at the same time, and martial arts training and all of that all at once. I was a very crazy, out kid, right? Had to do everything.
Yeah,
you know?
I guess so. Did your high school know that you were doing the backyard stuff?
No, because like I said, it was just like what me and my friends did for fun after school. You know, like I probably talked about it a few times with teachers around or everything, kind of like joking around about it. Like, I'm sure they knew we were doing it. They just, you know, they don't care. It's just like, after school, they, like, hang out and, like, do wrestling moves to each other on a trampoline. Like, it's a trampoline.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, can't really...
If we were, like, setting up, like, really dangerous fake rickety rings and setting off explosions and trying to have, like, Taipei death matches, I think that might be different. But, yeah, we were just having fun. So, like, you know, even if, like, teachers knew, they didn't care.
Yeah. Okay, so you've been playing music since you were a teenager, you said. Where does the love of music come from?
I mean, I've always just loved music and been pretty musically inclined, and I figured out that I had like a naturally like a decent singing voice at a pretty young age, so I started like singing stuff and just getting real into music. And then, I mean, as far as like my love of heavy music goes, I mean, between just like hearing some of the heavier stuff on the radio, and then like a lot of the ECW, because, mind you, growing up so close outside Philly in the 90s, being like a kid in the 90s, I actually got to see like ECW on TV every week, and go to the ECW arena and go to shows as a kid and everything. So, ECW had a big influence on me, like, as a wrestling fan and almost as like a music fan, because ECW always used heavier music for their video packages, their entrance music, and it's like a lot of rock and metal and grunge,
Yep.
And I always liked that stuff way more than anything else. And then once I started playing music, that's the kind of stuff that I wanted to do. And, as you get older and you kind of like refine your taste, like I started really liking some of the heavier stuff, like melodic death metal and that kind of stuff, and black metal, and really getting into just like all aspects of metal. I'm not really like a metal elitist, even though like I've been in like black metal and death metal or like real extreme metal bands before. A lot of those people are kind of like music snobs. I'm not really like that. Like I'm not a big fan of like poppy, happy, cute music. It doesn't do it for me, But I agree with that sentiment. But a lot of people are almost like metal snobs, or they only like one type of metal. Or like
I know what you mean. Yeah.
Yeah, everything else isn't really metal. Like, there's a few bands like that are so radio mainstream and cookie cutter. You're like, it's more radio rock than metal, But for the most part, I just love metal as a whole. Everything from Black Sabbath to Cannibal Corpse.
Nice. Okay, nice. That's a wide range right there. So what was some of the names of the bands that you were in?
Well, my first band was just kind of like your basic street punk band. It was called the Scandals. And then most of the people I went to high school with were very into like emo and pop punk. And they liked like Taking Back Sunday and like some like the cutesy post-hardcore like Thursday, and like the pop punk like I don't know, Newfound Glory, whatever the hell was popular.
Yeah.
And that was just never me. So after the Scandals broke up, I joined this band with a bunch of like my best friends. It was called Lunchbox Anthem. And I was never like a huge fan of the name, and I kind of had like a different approach. Where, like I wanted to like screaming and singing and do like some heavier stuff, where they kind of wanted to do like lighter, like emo pop punk stuff, kind of into more of like acoustic stuff. Most of them, at least, like the guitarist who's like my best friend, like I could always kind of like level things out with him, but everyone else in the band was very pop punk driven, very emo driven, and I've never been a fan of either of those subgenres. So I left them pretty quickly and started a band called Through Dead Allies that most people just abbreviated to TDA, and that was pretty much the band I was in for the rest of high school, from like, I'm trying to think, it was like the second half of my sophomore year all the way till the end. And like there was like an original version of TDA, and then after Lunchbox Anthems broke up, I got some of my best friends back, and they're like, yeah, like we're kind of feeling what you're doing, so they joined TDA and kind of like grew from there. And like the main musical muse I had that like I was the lead vocalist of, and me and my buddy Tim were like the key songwriters of and everything, and that was probably like my main heavy musical project. And then after that, post high school, I was in a band called Villain. It was also my buddy Tim from Lunchbox Anthem band TDA and a few of my other friends. And then some people moved and kind of fell apart. So I had an audition for this band called Blasphemous, who is a pretty well-known black metal, death metal band in the the tri-state area, being like New York, New Jersey, Pennsylvania, Delaware, Maryland, all the way up to Connecticut and Massachusetts and everything. And they had a digital distribution deal with Forces of Satan Records in Norway. They would have like big tours and everything, so it was like a big opportunity for me. Went in and auditioned as a bassist because that's what they needed. But I play, other than just vocals, I play guitar, bass, keyboards, okay on drums. I couldn't really do metal on drums because metal drums are just out of this world.
Crazy, yeah.
Right. But like like a punk song or a rock song, I can do. So I have like a good range of things that I can do musically. So sign band needed a bassist. I tried out, nailed the audition, and joined Blasphemous, and that was the last band I was in right before I started training.
Okay. So, was the TDA, was that the one that was going on tour with and stuff for all those years, or was it a couple different ones, or?
Well, TDA never went on like an official like tour, but we played. It was kind of like our own tours, was that we would book ourselves, where we would play around a lot in the area, like Philly and Jersey and all that kind of stuff. Then once I joined Blasphemous, we would jump on like the East Coast legs of a lot of bands' tours. Like we opened for Cattle Decapitation, who's like a pretty big band on Metal Blade Records. We were opening for them for a few of their shows around here. Then Aborted, another big like classic death metal band. We got to open for them for a few shows per cycle. We got to open for Skeleton Witch up in New York, in Connecticut, and Massachusetts for a leg of their tour. So we actually got to we didn't leave the East Coast much because our deal was a digital distribution deal, and under that they pretty much just put your record out on their website and they split the money with you. And they don't really do much to promote you, and they don't put you on tours. So all of this tour work we had to do ourselves based off of our reputation. But having been a former frontman and booker of a band, I really didn't like the way Blasphemous was run. Everything was under the vocalist's name. He completely ran and booked everything with the band, all the money. I really hated the way he ran everything. It was a horrible business plan. And, you have to imagine, I'm the bottom of the rung in this band because I'm the replacement bassist.
Yeah.
I'm and they weren't really, because of that fact, I was an official member of the band, but they already had their, songwriters who would write. Have you ever seen Rockstar with Mark Wahlberg?
Yeah.
When they get off tour and they have a little break and they go back to the studio and he's like, oh, here's a demo of all the songs I wrote during the break, man. And he kind of laughs and I'm like, oh, I'm sure these songs are great, but we have an established songwriting team. The new record's already written.
Yeah, I got
that same thing happened. The same thing happened to me, right?
Yeah, so you didn't have much say in it, yeah.
Right. And I'm trying to tell the vocalist, there's so many better ways that we can make more money and get more exposure and expand our tours past just the Eastern Coast and everything. And it just didn't go well. And then, I had the opportunity to go train with wrestling, and it was really, really bothering me. Pretty much the whole time I've been an adult, but I hadn't trained yet. So I eventually kind of just made a decision to, join the first class of Pat Buck's wrestling school and just drop everything and quit Blasphemous and move my life around to go do that.
Right, so it was a combination of kind of just being unhappy with where it was going and wanting to try to get into wrestling full time.
Right. And I honestly think that, I would have ended up training no matter what. Mm-hmm. Because it had been bugging me for so long. And being used to being in control of a band and then just kind of being the hired gun was kind of getting to me. So whether I never even joined Blasphemous or whether things were going good, unless we got some kind of big deal where we're making serious money, I would have ended up training no matter what.
Right. So did you? Obviously you guys put out music, right? Like different CDs or whatnot.
Oh yeah. You can find all that kind of stuff on the internet. I'm pretty sure TDA is actually still on Pure Volume, even though that record's 11 years old at this point. So I put that out when I was 17. And then all the Blasphemous stuff is all over online. You can look that stuff up anywhere. Yeah,
I'm definitely gonna check it out then. All right, so I know I said we had to talk wrestling, and then we just started talking about music for another 10 minutes. We'll get into wrestling now, I promise. You mentioned training with Pat Buck, and you were a member of his first training class. Is that correct?
Right.
Okay, and that was PWS?
Yes.
Okay. And I heard you tell a story on an earlier podcast I listened to, and there was a Hurricane Sandy that caused the PWS to have to move?
Right. And we had to move our training to Metuchen.
Oh, okay. And how long were you there before that? Like when that happened?
It was about 6 months into training, not even, it was like 5 months into training.
Wow.
Hurricane Sandy hit, and we had like a big show with like Davey Richards and Sammy Callahan and Kevin Owens and all kinds of people on the show. And so we couldn't use the Rahway Rec Center, like we just lost the building because of Hurricane Sandy. So they condensed the show into using like a generator and floodlights and all that kind of stuff into the Rahway Senior Center, which is like right across the street from Pat's house.
Oh, wow.
So he got permission to do it, and they just moved the show there, ran everything off the generator. Like the rec center was completely flooded. Like that's why we were out of there for like a couple of years after that.
Yeah.
They had to completely redo the floors and redo the whole rec center.
Wow.
So it was a crazy weekend though. So yeah, we ended up every other wrestling show running that weekend canceled and everything, and Pat made it happen where he just hooked up a generator and floodlights and ran a wrestling show with no power after Hurricane Sandy.
Wow, that's crazy. That's commitment, though. That's cool. All right,
Exactly.
So besides Pat Buck, I heard you say one of your other trainers or one of your main trainers was Sammy Callahan too.
Right.
And I had on the podcast a little while ago the guy that trained him, Cody Hawk,
Mm-hmm.
and he was telling me stories about Sammy, and I'm sure you've heard all of them before, but I just found it fascinating because Sammy's a guy that obviously he was at NXT for a little while, and then for whatever reason they didn't decide to use him. But I thought that was pretty cool. And then another name you mentioned was Rich Swann, and like kind of traveling with Sammy and Rich Swann. Could you talk a little bit about that?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I think it's important to mention that before TDA ever even got off the ground, and one of the main reasons that it bothered me so much that I never trained once my bands got going and everything was I actually, when I was first turned 18, like halfway through my senior year, I contacted King Kong Bundy's wrestling school. And I think it was like the last year that he was actually running it.
Mm-hmm.
And I basically, he pretty much told me that, like, I should reevaluate everything because I just turned 18. And, I mean, I was smaller than I was when I debuted, like, I was like, I'm 6'1", but I'm like, I'm about like 160 pounds. He was like, oh, well, I mean, a lot of the guys I train are pretty big, like, I'll train you if you want, but I mean, I would advise, maybe training somewhere that'd be better to fit your style and everything. I was like, oh, okay. And like, he actually had a conversation with my dad. Because mind you, I was still young. I was still in high school, so he called the house and everything.
Right.
He was really nice and respectful and everything.
Yeah.
I'll train you if you want, but you might want to think about training somewhere else because of your size. You will probably wrestle very different kind of style and everything. And I know they completely renovated the school and the way it was ran like a year or two after that. Someone else took over, and I think like Matt Tremont and a few other guys ended up training there after that.
Oh, okay.
But so like my dad kind of like convinced me to wait till I was done high school and everything, and then maybe like look for a more like he knew what I liked. He used to take me to wrestling shows. I mean, I wanted to be like Jerry Lynn and Rob Van Dam and Lance Storm.
Nice.
So he's like, yeah, I mean, maybe let's find like a school once you graduate high school that's more that style for you. But I mean, by the time all that happens, like that's when TDA was like very heavy active and playing shows everywhere, and like it was looking very, very promising.
Right.
So I mean, it kind of took me that way, and like I said, TDA almost kind of melted right into Villain with like half the members, and then all that and the life and everything swept up. So once I was in Blasphemous, and I mean, I was always a huge Pat Buck fan. Because I used to, I was a hardcore wrestling fan. Like, I used to download the OVW shows when they were WWE developmental.
Right.
And Pat Buck was one of the guys there, and he had like a silly rock star gimmick that always popped me a lot. And then he was in a tag team with Rob Conway called Men of Iron. That was real cool. And then I was always a big Rob Conway fan.
Nice.
And then they broke up, and they had a feud, a really cool feud in a nice Falls Count Anywhere match that I really liked. And after all the stuff with OVW, I didn't really see much or hear much about Pat Buck again, and I was kind of like, I wonder what happened to that guy. I always really liked him. He was really good, So then, in 2012, I'm unhappy and blasphemous, and I see that Pat Buck is opening a school, and the assistant trainers are going to be Sammy Callahan and Jay Lethal.
Oh, yeah.
And I didn't even look anywhere else. I was just immediately like, that's where I want to go train.
Yeah.
So I contacted Pat Buck. He immediately told me that, he would train me. I quit blasphemous, and I was actually going to take that summer off from my landscaping, which is what I would always do for money in the summer. I ran my own landscaping business whenever I wasn't on a bunch of shows, in the studio, anything like that.
Mm-hmm.
So this was the first summer I wasn't even going to do my landscaping because I was planning on going on tour. Quit blasphemous. Tried to re-up on all my landscaping stuff real quick to make sure I had money throughout the summer. Literally rearranged the way I was going to run my whole life for the next few months just to train with Pat Buck.
Yeah, based off of, yeah.
Right. So I start training there and everything, and basically once I meet Sammy, his first day there, he walks up to me and he's like, hey, man, Pat said you live in Voorhees? Yeah, mind you, CZW runs in Voorhees.
Yeah, I was going to ask you about that, but you already answered the question, because I was going to ask how come you never looked, being so close to Philly, how come you never looked at CZW, but you already answered the question, so.
Right, and I'll actually kind of go into that more right here. And he was like, hey, man, well, I live in Lindenwold, so if you want, you can just pick me up when I come here so I don't have to drive all the way here. I was like, yeah, man, I'll start picking you up for training.
Yeah.
So, once I go to I pick him up, the first time there, he's with Rick Swan. I was like, oh, crap, this is really cool, man. Rick Swan's coming too. And he's like, yeah, man, we live together. It turns out, Sammy and Swan live together, right down the street from me, and I never knew.
That's cool.
So I started picking them up to go to training, and then I would double up, because Sammy was also trainer at the CZW school, and had a key to the school and everything. So he would open up at random times to run his own little, open rings and classes and stuff. So I started doing that, too.
Mm-hmm.
So I had, my regular 3 days a week at the PWS school, and then I would get an extra, 2 days every week to train Sammy and Swan and whoever was in CZW. So
nice.
I ended up kind of doubling up like that for a while, and that lasted for about 6 months, actually. The show we were just talking about with Hurricane Sandy, that's where Sammy wrestled Kevin Owens. Mm-hmm. And then the next show, the next month, Sammy wrestled Goldust, and then he was done because he got hired by WWE.
Mm-hmm.
So he moved back to Ohio for the rest of the time before, because, his family was from Ohio.
Yeah.
That's where he's from.
Mm-hmm.
He went back to Ohio for a couple months before he moved out to Florida to go to NXT. So I had about 6 months with Sammy and Swan, and they went above and beyond to help me. We would always be grateful for that stuff. Whenever they were booked anywhere, we would just be like, hey, man, you want to come with me in my booking? Yeah, absolutely. And, Swan got me booked on a show before. She was like, hey, man, I can get you booked on this show if you want. You want to come? I was like, yeah, man, absolutely. So, those guys helped me out a ton. Got to travel with them a lot. And that's being a big, big indie wrestling fan, being a huge fan, especially of those two guys, is, amazing because, a few months before, I'm, watching Dragon Gate and CZW shows with both those guys, killing it on it, being a big fan of theirs. Now I'm, traveling with those guys and hanging out with them, 3-4 days a week.
That's
so
cool.
it was a trip, man, and it definitely helped me in the beginning, because there's not much more you can ask for than that when you start training, to have, a great home base and great, 3-time-a-week trainer like Pat Buck, and then having, all that extra time and knowledge with two of the biggest stars on the indies and soon both getting hired by NXT, it was, a dream. It was, I couldn't even believe that I got that lucky,
Yeah, definitely, a huge learning experience so early on for you. Now, after Sammy left for NXT and that, was Rich Swann still around?
No. Swan went with Sammy, which is a really good move because
okay.
If you have the ability to, why would you not move down to NXT?
Yeah, absolutely.
I'm not going to say who, just to just kind of douchey to expose people's personal business, but like there's actually a decent amount of indie wrestlers who aren't signed to NXT that actually live down there in NXT with the guys.
Oh, okay.
And it's a really smart move because you're there if they ever need you. I mean, I'm sure you see that they bring in people all the time to like. There's all kinds of people on the shows that aren't signed and don't train at the Performance Center. I mean, like, look at Johnny Gargano and Tommaso Ciampa. I mean, I'm pretty sure they have like a different kind of deal now. But I mean, when they first got brought in, it was just like, here's these two big indie guys. We're just using them in NXT. So living down there is like a great move for anyone. So yeah, I mean, Swan did the smart thing and like went with Sammy, and you know, it was definitely a smart move. And he ended up getting signed by NXT and didn't have to do anything to rearrange his life.
Yeah.
He just started reporting to the Performance Center, so it was definitely a good move.
Yeah. Pat Buck, he was just here in Scranton earlier this month. I think it was the 4th or the 6th, and I met him at the Global Force show. And I only spoke to him for like a minute or two because it was like the meet and greet type thing. But he was like super nice, and like I asked him about the school, and he said everything's going great, and like. Kevin Matthews was also there, and Brian Myers, so I met those guys there too. And I don't know if you could say anything or if you want to, but Kevin Matthews and PWS kind of going back and forth recently.
Yeah. I mean, it's not just Kevin. Kevin is just always going to be very vocal.
He's the spokesperson. Yeah.
You know, I really can't get into too much of that.
Yeah, that's fine. But yeah,
all I can really say is from my end, I don't even know what I was going to say. I'll say this: there was 2 owners of PWS, Pat and someone else.
Right.
And at first, I got along very well with that someone else.
Mm-hmm.
And then after me trying to do something to help, and there being a fallout in that, and basically me getting blamed because there was no one else to blame. Basically, like it was like someone was going to come in for a signing, and I helped him hook up with someone who's willing to like do a dual signing with the talent with the cost. And then the person that I got backed out, and it wasn't really even that person's fault. Like I said, I can't get into it too much, but basically, like, I got blamed for it. It's like, whoa, all I did was kind of be like the middleman, like, hey, this guy and this guy, you guys should do business together. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, I'm sorry it went south, but like it went a little extreme, you know, where there was like, it went a little far. You know what I mean?
Yeah, definitely.
If you look at like those last year and a half of PWS, you'll notice that like I'm not on any of the flyers, and I'm barely advertised for anything, and there's a reason for that, you know?
Yeah.
So I had been having backstage problems in PWS with just one person for a while, and it was the other owner other than Pat Buck.
Yeah.
And so when I was told about the split a few weeks before it happened, I was so happy. Like, it was almost like, dude, this is, like, I thought this in my head, like, Pat should really just do his own thing. That would be awesome. People wouldn't have to deal with this person anymore, this horrible situation.
Right.
And it happened, and, you know, there was only, like, I think, like, a few people that knew in the very beginning, but I was in the first 10 people that knew about the split, according to the person that told me. Like, hey, I just wanted to let you know, because I know all the problems that you've had to go through with all this, that this is happening, and it's like, awesome. You know, there's a reason that let me put it this way. PWS was its own promotion with its own owner. Pat Buck came in and really brought a lot of good things, like a new great ring and a school and a developmental system and a homegrown talent base and new lights and new curtains and logos and all this stuff.
You dumped a lot of money into it.
Right. So then when the split happened, that's why if you look at WrestlePro, it's the same. WrestlePro is the same. It's the same production division is PWS. So basically, like, WrestlePro almost is PWS with a different name, and PWS kind of has to go do their own thing now.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like,
Yeah.
Why do you? There's a reason that WrestlePro got the building and the ring and the light and the entranceway and everything that goes into the production and all the vendors and 90% of the talent. I mean, the people that are saying, like, oh, Kevin, you're full of crap, do they think it's fishy that all the wrestlers left? It would be easier to just stay with PWS.
Yeah.
To just be like, nope, I'm staying where I'm at. Everyone, like, made a conscious decision to move just to a new company to get away from PWS.
Right.
There's a reason for that.
Yeah.
So that's why WrestlePro runs so smoothly. It's the same operation. That's the best way to put it.
Yeah.
It's the same operation that you've been seeing with the PWS product for years. Same building, same ring, same like everything. Just with new logos, new stuff for the entranceway, new aprons, new ring stuff. I gave it a nice makeover to make it like a different feel, different company. But it's the same operation that you've been seeing, just with one very efficient owner behind it, as opposed to a second person making everything stressful and sporadic for everyone.
Right. I gotcha. Okay. Yeah, but I know you said you can't get into it, so I don't want to ask you too much more on it. But I read all the stuff that Kevin posts up, and most of the time it makes my day, and I'll read all the comments and stuff, and he takes it and he gives it right back, and that's what I love so much about it, because I mean, I don't know anything about anything, but I mean, I believe like where Kevin comes from, like, and you pretty much just confirmed like the stuff he says is true. So I'm.
Oh, dude, I have been saying this dude is a bad dude for too long. Since the beginning of 2013, when all that happened that I just explained.
Yeah.
So for over 3 years, I have been saying, hey, this dude's a bad dude. I love Pat, but this other guy he's bad news. But like when it finally happened, and when it's like a group, like everyone being like, why do we deal with this guy shit? And then once you dig into the things that I can't talk about, all the other things he did, that like,
right.
That's the reason that there's lawyers and no one can talk about anything. There's some big stuff. When everyone finds out like all the like the real deep details, it's going to be like, oh, shit.
Yep.
That is crazy. You know what I mean? Like,
yeah.
So the stuff I'm saying is just like, you know, it's the tip of the iceberg.
Yeah, I think he even hit Kevin with the cease and desist, didn't he?
One of those fake ones.
Yeah.
Like, it's nothing, dude. There's no legs to stand on with that stuff. It's just con man crap.
Yeah, I thought that was great, though. And, I mean, obviously, no sweat off Pat Buck's back, because he's still doing his thing, and WrestlePro's doing great, obviously. But PWS, I don't know. Well, we'll move on from that.
Okay.
So you started out and training with Pat and everything, and one of your first match, I don't know if it was your first match, maybe, but it was against Pat Buck, right?
That was my first one-on-one match, yeah.
Oh, okay. And I mean, how was that going in? I mean, I imagine he took care of you, but I mean, were you like nervous and stuff?
Oh, I was nervous as hell, man. I mean, because it's like my first one-on-one match, and it's like I'm wrestling the person that I like respect the most,
right?
And like the person that I want to be like, oh, you did good, you know. So like, you know, watching a match is one thing, but actually being in there in the match with like the person, it's they pick up on everything.
Yeah.
You know, like you can stumble on a few things that someone watching the match won't notice, but when it's like you and that one other person, that's the one person's going to notice every move you make, everything, how you do it, you know. So I was very nervous heading into that. So the way it turned out and the crowd reaction we got was just like, it was like the best case scenario for me. Like, oh my God, like I pulled this off, and Pat actually got that match out of me for my first match. Like, holy crap, like the crowd's actually loving this. Like, there's so many people, they have their first one-on-one match, it's just this like, you know,
going through the motions.
Crowd reaction. Right, like a very stumbly, kind of like you can tell it's the first match.
Uh-huh.
that just took great care of me and made me look like $1 million and just like highlighted all my strengths because I had only been training for like 7 months at that point.
Yeah.
You know, so he just worked his ass off and then kind of took all the things that I did well and showcased them. And it was, like I said, it was really like the best case scenario for that. And it was amazing to me.
Yeah, yeah. That's cool. And again, like I said, I was listening to the other podcast you were doing before, and one of your earlier matches too was against I don't know if it was a battle royal or something. Matt Hardy as the Grim Reaper.
Yeah.
Was there ever a payoff to that, or?
No, it was, that's actually the show that we ran with the generator and the floodlights after Hurricane Sandy.
Okay.
I forget who Kevin was supposed to defend the title against. Kevin was the PWS champion. Because of Hurricane Sandy, whoever he was going to defend against couldn't make it.
Okay.
So they did a gimmick where there was like a student battle royal that Kevin was going to defend against one of the students.
Yeah.
And I was actually like kind of like not sad, but kind of like I don't know how to describe it. But going into that show, I mean, that was in November, so, I mean, September, October. I'd only had, like, 2 matches on PWS before that. Our debut Battle Royal, and then the month after that, for October, he picked, like, the best 10 of us to do a 5-on-5.
Mm-hmm.
And then for his third show, he did, for this show we're talking about now, he did, like, a 3-on-3, and then, like, a lumberjack thing. And I wasn't in the lumberjack match, but they booked it where, like, I kind of interfered for the babyface team to help them win, you know? So, but I didn't actually get a match. It was the first show I was left off of, so it's kind of like, oh, like, I don't get a match. Like, I get to do something, but I don't get a match. Like,
yeah, bummed out,
those guys get, right, like, that sucks. Those guys get a match, and I don't. Cause, like, it's very hard for me to, like, sell a lot of tickets when I first started training because, like, I live, like, an hour and a half away from there.
Right.
You know, like, a lot of these guys live, like, 10 minutes from the building. Their friends and family who come and everything. It was never really like that for me. So, like, when we first started out and no one knew who we were, there was a lot of, like, hometown guys, and then all the friends and family that appear in them, and then there's me, and, like, I don't have anyone there for me, you know?
Yeah,
so,
aw.
there was, like, a higher demand for the other guys because their families were there. So I understood why I wasn't in the match, but as, like, a wrestler, I was like, oh, I feel like I could really add something to this. So then what they did was, once Kevin's opponent wasn't going to come, they did the student battle royal, and they're like, all right, it's we're going to do this angle where Matt Hardy is in the matches dressed as like the Rahway Reaper, and he's going to win, and it's going to come down to Matt Hardy and Craven. Oh, awesome, I'm getting a match now, and I get to work with Hardy. Okay, cool, and they're like, all right, just go in there, have a battle royal, and then, like, all right, Craven, come with me, we'll have you talk to Matt, figure out what's going to go on. So they bring me in this room, and Matt Hardy's just sitting there getting dressed, and, like, it's like my third show with PWS, 5 months into my training, and I get to kind of just, like talk to Matt Hardy, like, all right, man, here's what we're going to do. We're like, oh, my God, man. I didn't even think I was wrestling, and I'm sitting here with Matt Hardy, like, going over what we're going to do. This is really, really cool. So, they really threw me a bone with that, which I really appreciated. Got to have some fun in there with my friends in the Battle Royal, and got to have, like, my Hardy and everything. So that was awesome. That's what that was. The Rahway Reaper. So then Matt Hardy eliminates me, and the Rahway Reaper against Kevin Matthews. The Rahway Reaper hits the pins Kevin Matthews. Everyone's like, oh, my God, what's going on? Takes off the mask. It's Matt Hardy. Matt Hardy's the new PWS champion.
Nice.
So that's what that was.
Okay. All right. And I heard you tell a story, too, about your girlfriend at the time. I don't know if you're still together with this girl, but she airbrushed gear for you?
Oh, that girl. No, I'm not still with her.
Okay.
If you look at all my ring gear from before I went out with my injury, it's all, like, airbrushed, like, kick pads, short, and armband.
It was good. It was good. Good.
That.
I liked it. A lot of stuff looked good.
Oh, thank you, man. It's actually, if you started doing my gear, because like at that time, she was my girlfriend when I was in Blasphemous, and she stayed with me during the transfer over to wrestling. And she started airbrushing my gear. Pat Buck is like really good friends with Ryback, so after a few, and your gear is like really good. Like Ryback's looking for another airbrush artist. This stuff with RVD's guys that are out. So she became top airbrush artist as well. So I had to get like Ryback's number. I would have to call Ryback, when his stuff was shipping out, when he was sending us it to her, because he did like everything through back then.
Yeah.
So and like I was wearing that gear because obviously kicked a lot of kicks.
Mm-hmm.
The R-band just looked cool with everything, and then MMA shorts because of my background in martial arts and MMA and all that. So I would just kind of get like there to a fight, but with kick pads and get it all airbrushed and out for what I was doing.
Yeah.
So that's what all that was. And, after we did like 1 or 2 years more for me that I used for like the next year. And he kept doing Ryback stuff, so he switched to the black trunk.
Oh, okay. Well, was there any other wrestlers besides yourself and Ryback?
She did a pair of boots for Sammy Callahan, and she did a singlet for Dave Destruction. She did a jacket for Kevin Matthews, an entrance jacket for Pat.
Nice.
I think that's it.
Okay. All right. I want to ask you about. You were the first ever PWS Suicidal Six-Way champion, and can you just describe real quick what a Suicidal Six-Way is, if people don't know?
Well, it's it's a classic indie thing. Every time something different, a scramble, a fray. It could be any number of people. PWS, we call theirs the Suicidal Six-Way, and it was always 6 people. There was like 1 or 2 times where it was like a Suicidal 7-Way, and then like the first time I was in one, it was a crazy 8 smash. It had like Jerry Lynn and A.R. Fox and Rick Swann in it and everything. So that was like nerve-wrecking for me. But then when they switched it over to the 6-Way title, so I got that kind of experience before anyone else.
Yeah.
So that was our December show. It was the month after the Matt Hardy thing.
Okay.
So I'd been training for pretty much exactly 6 months at that point. They put me in a crazy 8 match with it was a lot of like well-known people. I'm trying to think of this. It was me, Jerry Lynn, A.R. Fox, Rich Swann, Johnny Silver, Lance Anawahi, and Christian York.
Wow.
And did I say 7 or 8? I can't remember. It was pretty much the match.
You say crazy 8, but then it differs for Suicidal 6, or it could be 7-Way. So.
Right. I was just trying to think of my name.
Yeah.
And, that was my first one, and then they pretty much started giving that to me every month because they're like, this one can do moonsaults and shooting star presses and wontons and that kind of stuff, and hurricane ranas and head scissors, and he fits in this kind of stuff. Mm-hmm. So they started giving me that, and it got to the point where I actually competed in more, like every show I was like the 6th. So it got to the point where I actually had more Suicidal Six-Ways under my belt than anyone else in PWS history. So when they brought the belt out, Starman, who was Joey Janela at the time, he was the Tri-State champion, and then they announced that, like, all right, this Tri-State title match tonight is going to be for the new Suicidal Six-Way title, and I won, and I didn't know I was going to win until, like, a few minutes before I went out there. Had a really kind of like funny moments. Pat Buck and I both have very kind of like dry, sarcastic sense of humor. And Pat's sense of humor is even more dry than mine. So he was kind of like busting my balls, like, all right, so we're going to do this and this and this, and I'm going to shoot the pile driver, and I get the win. I'm like, oh, okay. Like, wow, like Pat's actually putting the mid-card title on himself. Okay. And then, like, right before we go out there, and he's like, all right, so you got it, like, blah, 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 this and this and that, the pile driver, and that's it. Like, all right, yep, got it. And he's kind of just, like, staring at me. And I'm kind of just, like, staring back at him, like, why are you staring at me? And I'm kidding. You're going to sweep out my legs and take my pin, or no, you're going to give me a backdrop, and we're going to do the Brett Bulldog SummerSlam finish, where, like, you give me the backdrop, I go for the sunset flip, and you pin the legs down and pin me. Mm-hmm. Like, holy shit, man, awesome, thank you. I'm honored. He's like, no, you're like, I think he was expecting me to know that he was...
Right.
So, like, when I was just like, oh, okay. Like,
yeah, sure.
He just kind of stared at me like,
Wait,
motherfucker, you know I'm kidding, right? Right. Like, so we just had this like really awkward like stare down, like I'm kidding, you're winning. Like oh.
Wait, now did
No,
you think he was fucking you then too though?
I wasn't sure because like I had gotten like I'd gotten little hints that I was going to win the match here and there.
Uh-huh.
Like they had dropped like little hints for me that like I was probably, and they were actually, this is before my falling out with the other owner of PWS, so he was actually pushing it hard on the Facebook like Craven Varro, who's competed in more suicidal six ways than ever, gets to compete for the six-way title. Like they were pushing it on Facebook, and they're saying stuff to me in training. So like I kind of had a feeling that I was going to win, but then like anything can happen in wrestling. I don't expect anything. I'm grateful for everything I get.
Right.
So when Pat said he was winning, like I kind of had a feeling he was busting my balls, but I'm not going to like, oh come on, man, you know what I mean? Like I'm not going to be like a piece of it. Oh, okay. All right. But I think he's almost expecting me to like, give him a look and be like, really, Pat?
Yeah.
But I just didn't react that way, so he's just kind of like, dude, come on, I'm messing with you.
Yeah,
you know?
yeah. That's great.
Yeah, but no. So there's like that really funny, awkward moment backstage with that. But then the match went like great, but like I have really bad luck, and this is actually one of those cases because I did a spot with Joey Janela. He's Starman. Where like, do you remember how the Goon's old finisher, greatest finisher in the world, is like the body check, where he would set you up like on the outside against the apron, and he would kind of like run down the entranceway, stinger splash, and then like roll you in and pin you.
I gotcha. Yeah.
Joey Janela kind of didn't do that, but with like a drop kick.
Okay.
So we do that, and he just like smashes his head on the floor and starts convulsing, having seizures. I had no idea. He hits me with the drop kick, and I'm selling it, and the Pat has me by the hair and pulls me back in the ring right after that.
Yeah.
So I thought he just hit me with the drop kick, and he's selling. Me and Pat do our closing minutes of the match. I go over and everything. Me and Pat hug in the ring. He raises my hand. I'm raising the belt up in the air. And he's like, all right, man, celebrating. He gets out of the ring. So I'm up on the rope celebrating and posing to the fans and everything. And the referee comes over to me. He's like, hey, man, you might want to stop celebrating. I was like, what? Why? He's like, Joey's hurt. I was like, what? He's like, Joey's like on the side of the ring convulsing, man, and everyone's over there, and you're up on the rope celebrating. I was like, well, I feel like an animal.
Yeah.
I had no idea. And then it was horrible, man. It was like 10, 15 minutes with just everyone outside the ring around Joey and the paramedics coming and putting him on the stretcher and everything. And like, this is my first title win.
Yeah. You feel like shit. Yeah.
I have the worst. I mean, you could contend that Joey Janela has worse luck than I do. That's straight how it is. Like, I'm not taking anything away from that, but like, it's just one of those things like that would happen to me. You know, like, oh, I won a title, but I can't celebrate because, well, I like he died.
Yeah.
Also, and then Joey was like fine though. He just hit his head real hard, and sometimes when you hit your head real, there's little convulsions. And, he just got knocked out. Convulsions. He was in the hospital. He was fine.
Yeah, that's.
I was glad everything was okay, but yeah, that was kind of like my celebrating moment. That's how I always remember winning my first time.
Yeah, it was like that celebrate moment, and then it's like, oh man.
Right, where you almost feel like a horrible person.
Yeah.
Celebrating, and you had no idea, you know.
Yeah. But I mean, at the same time, you were just doing what you're told to do at first.
Right, exactly. You win a championship. About it, you get up on the ropes and raise your in the air. You know, that's what wrestlers do. Yeah. I had no idea. I just felt horrible about it after.
Yeah. Have you talked to Joey since the Zandig spot?
Like not really. Like had a conversation with him.
But I mean, just to see if he's okay.
No, like, all right. Everyone was kind of like it was funny to mention that because Chris Dickinson actually posted something today that I commented on that I completely agreed with. Have you seen that video of Kota Ibushi doing that like lawn dart dominator to that guy in Japan?
Yeah. I know what you're talking about.
Yes. So Dickinson posted that video, and he ended it with the hashtag like something like the cool kids don't get in trouble or something like that. And it was talking about how like Dickinson will do something that some people say is dangerous, even though it's dangerous and is actually really safe for their opponents, and they'll take part on Facebook But when Kota Ibushi does it, it's like praised universally and that kind of stuff. And it's like, oh, well, when the cool kids do it, no one says anything. That's totally true in wrestling.
Yeah.
I mean, like, certain people just get that free pass to do whatever they want on the indies, like people that are like, at the moment. And like anyone else trying to kind of like break out and make a name for themselves and do something that's going to go video and get buzzworthy, they kind of get like shat on for.
Right.
You know, like, oh, you're a bar clear yourself, or you're this or that. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
And Joey got a lot of that for that Zandig. I know exactly what Joey was doing.
Yeah.
I know, because, like, dude, he grew up watching that, and he wanted to have a moment like that. And he wouldn't have done it if he didn't trust Zandig, if he didn't trust the way they had their truck set up.
Mm-hmm.
You know, obviously he had a pretty nasty gash on his thumb that he had to get closed up, and, you know, it's lucky that that's the only thing that happened. Hopefully, you know, he's good with his insurance or care or whatever. Hopefully that won't financially affect him. But yeah, I mean, he got a lot of flack for that, and it's not fair.
Right.
Like, I get people like suggesting, like, it's just, I get where they're sort of seem like concerned and like, oh, I don't want to see anything happen. But it's his body, it's his career, it's his legacy. You know what I mean? Like,
yeah.
No one was shitting all over Mick Foley for doing things that he used to do. Harry Funk. No one was shitting on Sabu for doing the things he was doing. It honestly, like, and it's funny because, like, it really depends on who it is. Like, right now, there's, like, spots that certain guys go out there and do, they'll get praised for, where I went out and did the same thing. Certain people would have whatever they could think of with it.
Mm-hmm.
And it's the same thing with what happened to Joey. Like, another great guy that I have a ton of respect for, Matt Fremont. If he did that same spot to Fremont, everyone would have just been praising it. Because it's Fremont. Everyone, oh, that's amazing. That's hardcore. That's extreme. That's ultra-violent. You guys deserve praise you for putting your bodies through that. But then when Joey does, how dare you put your body through that? You know?
Yeah.
It's like a double-edged sword.
Uh-huh.
You know, wrestling is a fickle mistress. It really is.
Mm-hmm. Definitely.
Yeah, I mean, I haven't directly talked to Joey about the Zandig thing, but I know exactly what he was doing, and it's cool, man. You know, like, do what you love and what you want to do and make your legacy. And that's what he's doing. He'll be remembered for that for a long time. So
yeah, I mean, at the end of the day, I mean, everybody in the world knows who Joey Janela is now, if they didn't know before.
Right, it gave him a lot of exposure. They were saying his name on ESPN. I mean,
yeah, exactly. Another story that kind of, I think it was before that, though, that got everybody in an uproar a little bit was the Ospreay and Ricochet, and then Vader ended up getting a match out of it somehow.
yeah, man. I mean, it's funny.
Go ahead.
No, I'm sorry, go ahead.
I know you had a Vader story. I heard on a previous podcast you did too, but I don't know if you want to share that.
Oh yeah, absolutely. Well, I mean, before that, even with the Ricochet and Will Ospreay thing, what I was just talking about, like the it's getting passes and everything.
Mm-hmm.
There's like make or break moments with that, and Ricochet has been that guy for a while. And Will Ospreay's the British wrestling is getting real big again. Like, people know who Zack Sabre Jr., Marty Scurll, and Will Ospreay, and Mark Andrews, and people know who these guys are now, you know?
Mm-hmm. Tommy Gunn.
Right, exactly. Yeah, Tommy Andrews, apparently you'll be heading to Florida pretty soon.
Yep.
So these guys are making a good name for themselves now. And Will Ospreay's young. He's like my girlfriend's age. He's like 23, you know? And I feel like people kind of like took the opportunity to be like, oh, here's Ricochet and some newer guy. How they disrespect wrestling like this? And since everyone came to their support, like, nope, wrestling is art. People are going to wrestle how they want to wrestle. It doesn't make sense for those two guys to go have a Vader Stan Hansen match. Doesn't make sense.
Yeah.
You know, like, now those guys will be untouchable now, because, like, if anyone even tries to shit on them, the whole internet will be like, we've already been through this, damn it. It's okay, you know? So, yeah, Vader is, he's Vader.
Yeah.
He's just, there's no other way to put it. Like, my story with Vader was, well, the matches we were talking about earlier. Well, I first debuted the September show Royal. The October show was like a 5-on-5 Survivor Series. So I'm getting ready for that, and I had to do 2 standing shooting star presses in the neck. And mind you, I've only done a battle royal up to this point.
Mm-hmm.
This is like my first big show match where I actually get to do moves and work.
Yeah.
So I'm in the back. We have this big crash pad at the school, and I'm on the crash pad practicing my standing shooting star press just to make sure I don't botch it. And for my first match, I have to do twice.
Yeah.
And I'm practicing it, and I look over, and Vader is just sitting there staring at me. And it's not like a normal sitting there staring at you, because he's sitting in this tiny little chair that's way too small for him. He's exploding out of this little chair that looks like it's about to crumble under. And all he's wearing is tighty-whities and the mask. That's it. Tighty-whities and the mask. And he's just in his chair, like with his legs spread real wide and his elbows on his thighs, kind of like a sitting bear, just staring at me. It will not take his eyes off of me. So I'm just sitting there like, why is this happening? Is Vader going to attack me? Is he impressed by my shooting star press? Am I disrespecting him somehow by doing this? Is he sexually attracted to me? Is he going to come sexually assault me? I don't know what's going on. So I kind of just I did it a few more times just to make sure it's good, and I just put the crash pad back where it was and just walked away as quick as I could.
Very awkward,
and just tried to avoid Vader the rest of the night. And it turns out, I found out maybe like a few months ago, like last time I told that story, one of my buddies heard the podcast, and one of my WrestlePro buddies, and they're like, hey man, I know why Vader's looking at you. I was like, what? Really? Why? They're like, because Vader's so big, he sits on a crash pad whenever he wrestles here. Whenever he wrestles here, that crash pad is his chair. So he probably just got done ripping, went over to his bag, took the singlet and his socks and boots off, turns around, and you're sitting on his chair. So he was sitting there in his tight. I don't know why he still had an ass on.
Yeah.
He's sitting there in his tighty whitey staring at you because he was waiting to sit down and put his clothes on. So now I get it, but it creeped me out for a while.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, I'm surprised.
He's a big human being in person, man. He is a big person.
Oh, I can imagine. I think he slimmed down since, though.
Right up close to him.
I saw him on the Table for Three thing on the network, and he looked like he slimmed down a lot, though, from, where he was, obviously.
Oh, yeah, but even for me, usually in a lot of indie locker rooms, I'm one of the tallest guys there, I'm a little under 6. Vader is, really, he's 6'4", and, 350, 400, 450, whatever the hell.
Yeah.
He is a large, you feel like a child standing next to him.
Yeah, definitely. I'm surprised with you doing the shooting star presses, he didn't kind of, hey, that's not wrestling, with the whole Osprey and Ricochet comments he had, but...
well, yeah, I don't think he had as much of an issue with the moves they were doing.
Yeah.
Yeah, I get what you're saying. He didn't have a problem with it. I kind of wish he just walked up to me and was like, hey, man, I need to use that to get my clothes on.
Right. Okay.
That would have been that.
Easier, yeah, definitely. How different is your character from your everyday self?
Not very different at all. I kind of, literally off of tour with cattle decapitation going where I kind of had an idea of what I wanted to do. I kind of just wanted to be an extension of myself and an exaggerated version of myself, that kind of. And to be completely honest with you, I really wanted to be a heel, just because of my personality. The way my best promo work is heel promo work, because the way I'm used to public speaking, I don't like to cut promos in this voice that I'm talking to you right now. Right. I get a lot of diaphragm and bass behind my voice and add some rasp to it, just like I did when I'm fronting a metal band. That's how I'm used to talking to the crowd in my metal guy voice. That's typically Enzo Amore, same thing.
Yeah.
And Dylan Moore uses the same voice that I do, like the bass, raspy voice. But Enzo's got like his shtick, where I'm not really that guy. Come up with like a bunch of sayings.
Right.
And my best content is really like my darker, more edgy stuff. So on the mic, I work the best as a heel. So that's what, for character expansion, that's what I really wanted to do. Once we got into training and Pat was kind of looking at, like, once we're starting to get matches and everything, and he's looking at where his students are, the progress, and who is doing what, hey, man, are you sure you want to be a heel? And I was like, I mean, you know, I'll wherever you need me. Why? And he's like, well, because you have the most babyface moveset out of all my students. You know, like,
yeah.
So I kind of feel like that you should be a babyface. Like, I think that's the best thing. I was like, okay. And it just stuck after that, and I've been a baby almost everywhere I wrestle. I mean, there's been like 2 companies that I've been healing. Mm-hmm. But like 90% of the time I'm babyface, and I just took advice and just used that, you know, the more fast-paced babyface moveset kind of style, and just kind of made that my thing.
No.
I do enjoy working heel, though.
Yeah.
On the few occasions that I do work heel, I have so much fun. I slow things down and show a little more personality. So I enjoy working heel. I honestly don't have a preference one or the other. I mean, I think that fans respond to you more as a face because you're doing flashier, prettier moves. Mm-hmm. But people get more of like who you really are as a character when you're a heel.
Yeah, I think you get away with more as a heel.
Right.
Okay. Well, when you were in the Reality Check stable, was that heel or face?
They turned. They were a heel for a while,
right?
And then they turned face because Kevin Matthews was just getting such big babyface reactions after a while. Mm-hmm. That the crowd pretty much turned Reality Check.
Okay.
And Devin was getting babyface reactions, so the crowd turned Reality. The company ran with it, and then I'm trying to think. I'm pretty sure they had been babyface for like 6 months by the time I joined.
Okay. All right. Now, when you were a part of that, correct me if I'm wrong, but you did something with Harlem Heat. I think it was October of 2014, maybe.
Yeah. We they had a show called 1031 at PWS. It was on Halloween night, and their big guest was Harlem Heat, and it was like I'm pretty sure it was the first time Harlem Heat ever did anything together, like since WCW, other than their own promotion in Texas.
Yeah.
So we were wrestling the New Heavenly Bodies, and they had, their manager and Fala and everything in their corner. So we evened the odds and came out, and we had Harlem Heat in our corner. So Devin Moore and I got to have Harlem Heat as our managers for a night. And Fala tried to interfere in the match, and Booker came in, gave him the bookend, and we got to have that big celebration in the ring with Harlem Heat, like Stevie raising the roof and Booker doing the spin-a-rooney, and we got to be in the ring for all that. They raised our hands after the match. It was and that was like one of the few matches we actually won. So that was an awesome night for me.
Yeah.
That was absolutely great. They were awesome to work with.
Definitely. And I know you also did some work with Bullet Club, Anderson and Gallows before they went to WWE, right?
Yeah, that was. I actually just posted a video of clips of that a couple days ago.
Yeah, I was watching that.
Yeah, that's like a great memory because I've always been, such a huge Japanese fan because like the wrestling culture I grew up in as a kid in the 90s, like ECW and tape trading and all that, it was very heavily Japanese influence in ECW, as you know. Mm-hmm. And Lucha and all that. So I always did international tape trading. I actually had like tapes and recorders and rewinders and all that kind of stuff. And I would record like every Raw and every pay-per-view, and
Same.
I would trade like Raws and pay-per-views to people to get like All Japan shows and New Japan shows and AAA and CMLL shows, excuse me. Started on that a little bit. And so that's like international wrestling and like the wrestling all over the world. I always liked like British wrestling too, like old school British wrestling. So, like, the international wrestling has always been a big thing for me. It's really cool to like New Japan now, but for years I've been a fan of just not just New Japan, but like Dragon Gate in Japan and DDT and Noah and all that kind of stuff. So when they brought in Anderson and Gallows, and it was actually the Bullet Club's first like U.S. indie appearance, like as Anderson and Gallows as a tag team. So it was like, and they were the IWGP Tag Team Champions at the time. So it was just like amazing when we found out they were coming in. It's like it gets announced like Reality Check versus IWGP Tag Team Champions, the Bullet Club. Like, oh my God,
yeah,
this is happening. And dude, let me tell you something, man. Like, there's some guys on the independents that are like hard to work with and have these like weird egos, you know, these like weird senses of self-entitlement. And working with them is just so eye-opening. It's like, dude, these guys are so cool and humble and like willing to make other people look good. Like, if they wanted to, because we didn't have a ton of time for the match. I think we only had like 8 minutes. So, I mean, they could have just like destroyed us. It could have just been like an 8-minute glorified squash match, you know? And it was close to that, but they made sure that in certain spots of the match, like the part I posted with like the hot tag, they made sure that they had things that made us both look good. And, you know, they didn't have to be like, all right, well, you come off the top rope and bump and beat both of us and knock us out of the ring and you dive on. It was actually their idea that I do 2 dives.
Nice.
I was just going to do the Italian moonsault on the Carl Anderson into the crowd. Then Gallows comes up with the idea, like, all right, well, let's have the other guy dive on me, and I'll, you know, I'll catch him, and then he'll, like, post me, and the other guy dives on me, so you get, like, 3 dives in, like, 20 seconds.
Man.
So that was their idea.
That's cool.
So they're, like, going out of their way to make sure that we look good, and they're so nice and polite and respectful, so, like, it's, like I said, it's really eye-opening when you work with people like that. Like, wow, you guys are just the best, because you have every excuse to be douchebags.
Right.
Dude, like their hashtag is legit. Like, hashtag good brothers. Like, they really, really are.
Yeah, that's awesome. That's refreshing to hear, because, like you said, they could get a big head very easily, and like they kind of stay down to earth about the whole thing.
Oh, yeah, man. And that's
cool.
When you meet a lot of those guys, that's usually how it is. It's like the guys that are more successful are actually some of the more chill, down-to-earth guys.
Yeah, that's cool. Okay, we could talk about, well, your neck injury. It's well documented. We don't have to get into all that. But I know you were wrestling like a while, like 2.5 years with it. But besides the neck injury, you had 4 dislocated ribs. Is that correct? At the time?
Yeah.
And how long were your ribs banged up before, like, that you didn't even notice?
I mean, to be completely honest, I really have absolutely no idea. I didn't even know that the ribs were an issue.
Yeah.
Because I have like a very, very high pain tolerance.
Right, yeah, I was going to say.
I mean, that's probably one of the reasons that I was able to kind of put up with the neck stuff for so long. And then, you know, I finally get evaluated and I go to the specialist and I finally get to the rehab place, and the rehab place, the main doctor is a chiropractor. And he's a really good chiropractor, which is the main reason I went there. It's, he doesn't just do back and neck. He does like shoulders and ribs and all that. So once I'm getting looked at, he gives me my full evaluation. He's like, yeah, so this wasn't on your report, but you have 4 dislocated ribs. I was like, what? He's like, yeah, you have 2 down at the bottom left in the back. All 4 of them were in the back, because your ribs connect to your sternum in the front and to your spine in the back. And they were all dislocated in the back, 2 of them on the bottom left, and 2 of them on the upper right. So they were obviously like 2 different instances, probably like some of the ladder matches and hardcore matches that I've had, if I had to guess.
Yeah.
So it's actually funny because I always had like a little bits of pain in my back here and there, and you don't really think much of it because you're a wrestler, but I know a lot of that in that spot now was the 2 right ribs up top, the 2 bottom left ribs. They really didn't start bothering me until like right before I started physical therapy. So like once I got my procedure done on my neck, I was getting ready to hit therapy and everything. And actually, it was before I got my procedure on my neck. I was getting ready to get the procedure, and I started getting like these bad pains. It felt like it was like my left kidney. And I ended up getting like a fever that day and feeling like crap. I was like, dude, is like my kidney shutting down? I kind of got like real scared about it.
Yeah, of course.
But then the next day, yeah, so I kind of like evaluated it and everything, and I felt better the next day, and that was my procedure. So I went and got my procedure done. I started therapy the next day. So like 2 days after I was feeling like that, I found out that, I mean, the fever was probably just like a 24-hour bug, but it was the ribs that were out of place. And he was able to get 3 out of the 4 ribs into place on the first day. But then one of the ribs that was like under my shoulder blade on the top right, he literally didn't get in until like one of my last physical therapy sessions.
Wow.
So, and that one hurt because it was like, he really had to move that thing around. So that was pretty damn brutal. But feels great now. I mean, honestly, I feel the best that I've ever felt since I started training, just because I mean, I have this similar problem to Randy Orton and Sami Zayn and Cesaro. A lot of lanky guys, you know, like guys have naturally very long arms and long legs.
Mm-hmm.
A lot of lanky dudes have problems with their shoulders. They have like hypermobile shoulders. And if you think about it, like Randy Orton, Sami Zayn, Cesaro, 3 of the lankier dudes in WWE have all had shoulder surgeries and shoulder issues.
Yeah.
And I can actually pop both my shoulders out the back.
Oh, wow.
Because they're hypermobile.
Yeah.
Well, on like the 3rd day of my training, we started learning arm drags, and I took an arm drag, and the guy giving it to me landed like shoulder to shoulder on top of it. And my left shoulder literally like popped out of the socket in like a chicken wing position.
Oh, man.
And and I was like walking over to Pat Buck to pop it back in, but I started feeling like a lot of pressure, kind of trying to like pull it back. So I reached back and grabbed my elbow and yanked it forward and popped it back in myself, just like Bruce Willis in Die Hard. If you've ever seen the original Die Hard, that scene is like the same thing. Yeah, so
that's crazy.
So I had a lot of problems with that for a while, and then that made like a lot of things lately really tough. And once I kind of started feeling okay with that, I was actually bench pressing and starting to get back to bench pressing after my left shoulder healed. And I still have no idea what happened to my left shoulder. I don't know if it healed right or wrong. I have no idea. But then after that, I started getting back into bench pressing, trying to get some size onto my upper body. And when I'm going down with the bar, something pops in my right shoulder, and my right shoulder is messed up for like 8 months.
Man.
And it still feels weird when I put it in like a hammerlock kind of position. So, to be completely honest, my body was feeling pretty messed up for a long time.
Yeah.
So, I mean, the chiropractor at the place, he did all kinds of stuff to my shoulders to make me feel better. A lot of electrotherapy and ice and ultrasound therapy, that kind of stuff to my neck, my back, my shoulders, all that kind of stuff. So, yeah, I feel better than ever, honestly. I feel the best I have since I started training.
Nice. So, the neck injury, I believe it kept you out for like 6 months. Is that right?
Yeah. I mean, I still haven't had my first match back.
Yeah, that's what I was going to ask you.
I mean, I've been wrestling and training and everything. I've been in the ring every week.
Yeah.
I was on therapy and training. But I'm kind of, I don't want to come back and... I want to make the biggest impact I can, so
right.
I just kind of trained. And when guys in WWE get injured too, you see the same thing, like Cesaro and Rollins, and even like when The Rock comes back from Mania, they train in the ring for a while before the first match back. I mean, even after Rollins returned to WWE after his injury, they didn't have him wrestle on TV for a month until the next pay-per-view. And he was wrestling on house shows.
Mm-hmm.
Right, and that's kind of what I've been doing. I've been having my training matches, doing all my drills and everything, getting my ring wind back. Because to wrestle the style that I wrestle, it takes a lot of wind out of you and a lot of cardio. And a guy built like me, it's hard to do things like that extra because the more cardio and that kind of stuff you do, you lose size. Because in order to gain mass, you need a certain amount of calories in your body, and you need a certain amount of protein and carbs. And you're just burning all these calories and carbs when you're doing cardio and everything. Mm-hmm. So it's very hard to balance my body type. I have a very similar body to Sami Zayn, actually, like when he was El Generico. And I mean, you look at my profile picture and everything, you can see the times when, like, I was on, like, a bulking stride and then, like, a cutting step.
Mm-hmm.
You know, because you never want to, especially a guy like me, you never want to look like skinny fat.
Right,
You know,
I know what you mean,
that's,
yeah.
that's like a thing, you know? Like, CM Punk's got that for a while, and then, like, he came back to, like, the best shape he ever was before he went out.
Mm-hmm.
But, yeah, I mean, it's, I'm not a steroid guy. I mean, anyone who knows me will tell you I've never done them. I won't touch them. I mean, there's been times that, honestly, especially the way I'm built, I've thought about it. I've come close to it, but I never pulled the trigger, and I just made the decision that it's not something I'm ever going to do. So, obviously it's no secret that there's a lot of guys that don't have to get drug tested, not in WWE, that do it.
Mm-hmm.
So it's very hard to keep up with that, being built the way I am and being natural.
Right.
So it's very tough with that kind of stuff, but that's all the stuff I've been focusing on.
Yeah.
Like, I got up to about 190 pounds maybe about a month ago. But I was looking at myself, I was like, I look a little skinny fat. I can't have, like, that much on my stomach when I come back. So I actually just pulled it back about, I was about 188. And I pulled it back about 7 pounds. I'm 181 right now, but my stomach looks leaner. So I lost. It's a constant balance like that.
Right.
But I'm pretty sure my first match back is going to be Wrestle Pro show in July, the July 23rd show in Union.
Okay.
So I've been trying to make sure that when I come back, I look the best I can, body-wise and in the ring and all of that kind of stuff.
Okay, so that's the target date, or that's the official announcement, or like that's your return date?
That's what I'm planning for. I honestly haven't talked to Pat about it because I don't really like to ring people's ears up.
Right.
I like to go there and train and wrestle. And, when I do talk to Pat, it's more like, okay, do you see any ring rust, any areas that I need to improve on in this and this? I actually had the opportunity to get in the ring with Pat with a drill last week. So that was good to get in there with Pat and have him, like, firsthand feel how I'm, coping with coming back and everything. So yeah, it's not 100% the date. I'm pretty sure that's my first match back. Like, if you look at the fan ballots that they sent out, I'm not on the ballot, but you're only voting on 5 matches, and there's going to be more than 5 matches on the show. So
right.
I don't know if he doesn't have me on the ballot because he already has something else for. Well, I mean, that's what it is. I mean, he already has something else for me, but I don't know if it's going to be a match or if it's going to be another run-in kind of thing with Monsters Island or some kind of angle. I'm honestly not sure what it is.
Gotcha.
I've been much more focused on the physical aspect of everything than the story aspect. I mean, the comeback was very simple. Kevin's getting beaten down by a stable, so I come out to help him. That's very, very simple. It almost booked itself,
Yeah.
So we haven't had to worry about that kind of stuff a lot. It's really been focusing on making sure that I'm pain-free and healthy and that my ring work and cardio and body are getting up to where they need to be.
Right. Okay.
So, I mean, trust me, once I find out, I will announce it on my Facebook.
Okay. You mentioned the fan ballot for the July 23rd card. Can you just kind of expand on that a little bit, because it is the fans pick the matches pretty much, right?
Right.
For that show.
Here, I just switched over to speakerphone. Can you hear me?
Yeah, you're good.
All right, cool. So I'm going to pull up the fan ballot here. So anyone listening to this, if you pre-order your tickets for WrestlePro on July 23rd in Union, New Jersey, you get to help book the matches. And there's a list of the singles roster that you can pick from. There's a list of the tag team roster you can pick from. The current champions are Anthony Bowens as the WrestlePro champion and Taboo Crew as the tag team champions. And the 5 things you can vote on are, number 1, who do you want to see take on Anthony Bowens in a title match? Number 2 is what tag team do you want to see take on Tag Team Champions Club Taboo? Number 3 is using the roster choices given, make 2 matches you want to see. Number 4 is which 2 independent wrestlers not listed would you like to see on the show. And number 5 is Valabot takes on Chris Payne. Choose the stipulation. Blindfold match, dog collar match, street fight, or first blood. So that is the ballot you get for doing pre-orders online. So if you would like to have your voice heard, you can go to WrestleProOnline.com, order your tickets. You get an official ballot sent to you. You can sit there, play fantasy booker all you want, send it back to Pat, and he will make it happen.
Nice. I think that's such a cool idea. It's like something you never seen, or I never seen before at least. And that's all Pat's idea?
Yeah. I think it's perfect, too, that there's, like, 5 things they can vote on. There's, like, the title match, tag title match, the stipulation with Payne and Fala, make your own match, and then, like, what non-Wrestle Pro guys like to see. So it's really like your fantasy booking 4 matches, and then the 5th vote is, like, you picking 2 people you'd like to see Pat bring in.
Yeah.
So, and then that kind of leaves the rest of the card open for Pat to make. So that way Pat can push things the way he needs to push them for forward movement for the company and for stories and matches. But it also gives the fan power for about half of the card. So
yeah.
It's like the perfect way to do it in my opinion.
Yeah, it's very smart. And I, like I said, I really like that idea. I think that's cool. And it makes his job a lot easier, obviously.
Kind of. I mean, in my opinion, it actually makes it harder because with complete power like that, you have your list, you have your depth chart, and you have your stories, and you get to pick what you want to do and fill in the matches with the roster you have at hand.
Right.
And that's it. But with the fan ballots, everyone's going to have a different opinion.
That's
Everyone's
true.
going to have a different answer. So he's going to have to go through every single ballot, record all of the votes, and he's going to have to average things out to see who really, say 3 people vote for like one guy and 3 people vote for another guy or 3 people vote for another guy. He has to pick which one gets the end, you know what I mean? So it's going to be a lot of work for him to actually calculate the ballots and try to have the most accurate card based off of the votes as possible.
Right, yeah, that's very true. Yeah, I didn't think of it that way, but... Okay, we're kind of winding down here. We're at about an hour and a half. Do you have anything else you wanna throw out there? Or?
Well, I could tell you this. Like I said, I've mostly been focusing on my gym work, especially now that I can actually lift things with my upper body again. Because after you get 3 vertebrae and your neck realigns, you can't really hang a lot of weight off of your upper body while they're trying to get your posture right again. So, I've only really been cleared for, like, heavy lifting for the past, not even a month. So, I've been working on that, my ring stuff. So, not even the second half of summer, once we hit into July, there's going to be little things that basically just keep an eye on my social media. Okay. Because I'm going to be announcing things for the rest of the summer. I actually have a good amount of bookings confirmed between now and October that I haven't announced any of them yet. Because, I'm waiting for a few other things, and I'm waiting for the companies themselves to announce it. Okay. But there's going to be a lot of announcements coming out on my end in the next few weeks. A lot of first-time kind of things, first-time matches, a lot of first time of me wrestling in this company or this town. So very, very exciting July through October for me. And, I'm so far ahead of it now where I'm, like, looking into my bookings for, like, the rest of October, November, and everything. So I'm going to have quite a return schedule coming out pretty soon. So I'll have a lot more that I can announce in the next few weeks.
Okay, nice. All right, you mentioned social media. You want to throw out your social media stuff?
Yeah, I'm a very easy guy to find. I have a very distinctive ring name. It is Craven Varro, Craven Varro. And, you type in Craven Varro into Facebook, Instagram, Twitter. I'm the only guy who's going to come up. So if you guys find me on social media, follow what I'm up to. I'm also, obviously, WrestlePro is and always will be my home base. So I'm going to be pushing a lot of things with that. Our September show is looking massive. Already for that, we have ETA versus Grado. And what a lot of fans are calling a comedy dream match. And what, everyone's excited about is we have Pat Buck against Cody Rhodes.
Mm-hmm.
Cody actually wrestled Pat in his first ever pro wrestling match.
Mm-hmm.
So it'll be really cool to have Cody there. It'll be really cool to see that match. Ric Flair is going to be there. So the September show is looking absolutely massive. So definitely keep an eye on WrestlePro. We got WrestleProOnline.com. You can look up WrestlePro on Facebook, Instagram, all that. On Instagram, I believe it's We Are WrestlePro. Also, Creative Pro, which is Creative Pro New York is the home base. Pat's school with Kurt Hawkins. They run their own shows there as well. So I know they have some good things announced for rest of summer into fall. So, these are all things to keep an eye on. And like I said, there's going to be some big announcements coming in the next week.
All right, good. Hopefully, I could see you sometime in Pennsylvania if you come over this way.
Absolutely, I would love to. You're, what would you consider your hometown promotion?
We have, it's called GFW, I think, or GSW, Grand Slam Wrestling. There's a bunch, man, but that's the main one that runs every month. But there's a lot that come around here.
Honestly, if you want to see me in that area, one of the best things you can really do is, a lot of times promoters on their page will ask fans who they want to see for a certain show. Also, obviously, on most pages, you can post visitor comments. Just getting the word out about, and not just me, really anyone who's your favorite wrestler on the independents.
Yeah.
I feel like a lot of fans forget about that. The best thing that can happen to an indie guy is to be what we call buzzing.
Right.
And, that's self-explanatory when you're buzzing. Perfect example of that lately is Leo Rush.
Yeah.
Perfect example of someone who's buzzing.
Yeah.
Because that dude came out of nowhere because
Absolutely.
he was Patrick Clark from Tough Enough. He was his tag team partner in MCW. That shed a lot of light and publicity onto MCW. People are looking at Patrick Clark and they say, hey, his tag team partner's really good.
Mm-hmm.
And then everyone finds out about Leo Rush. Dude was buzzing, getting booked everywhere. That's one of the best things that can happen to you. It is the best thing that can happen to an indie wrestler. Something that happens to get you buzzing.
Yeah.
And you can't be buzzing without the fans.
Right.
The fans are what make you buzz. So one of the best things fans can do is if you really like an independent wrestler, just get the word out about them. Share things, share pictures and videos they post. Share them onto companies' pages saying, hey, we'd love to see this guy. All these kind of things are, some of the best things you can do to get the wrestlers that you want to see in your area. Just make it known to those promoters that these are the people that we want to see.
Right. As you were just saying that, another one came to my head. I don't know if you had ever heard of Legendary Action Wrestling.
Yeah.
It's based out of New York, and I actually kind of work for them now. And I don't know if you would ever be opposed to going there, but I could try to talk to promoter and hook something up if you're willing down the road.
Oh, absolutely, man, absolutely. If you wanna hook it up, just let me know who the promoter is. You can add him on Facebook if I haven't already, and get some talks going. Because, like I said, at my age in your late 20s, when you're an indie wrestler, to be completely honest with you, considering that I had a neck injury, there's a lot of guys that told me that if they were me, they would have just stopped wrestling. And for me, fuck that.
Yeah.
I fought and came back sitting in a chair, getting my neck electrocuted, getting my whole everything rotated back into place, getting my whole upper body just re-put back together. I didn't do all that just to say I'm a wrestler and wrestle a few matches. I'm coming back and I plan on being everywhere. So, anything that you just mentioned is absolutely something I'll be down for.
Cool, definitely. I'll definitely try to hook that up. But I want to thank you for coming on and staying on so long. It's my longest interview so far.
Absolutely, man. I love this kind of stuff. So It's been a pleasure for me, too.
All right, that was my conversation with Craven Varro. Almost went 2 hours. That's crazy. My longest interview. No problem, though. Really enjoyed it. Thank you again, Craven, for coming on and staying so late, hanging out, talking, and hopefully I could work something out where he could come to Brooklyn or in New York area and work for Legendary Action Wrestling, and I can meet him face to face. That'd be awesome. I hope to get out to a WrestlePro show, and you should too, very soon. The upcoming one, July 23rd, that we were talking about with the ballot. If you pre-order your tickets online, you get a ballot sent to you where you could halfway make the card, make the matches. So that's pretty cool. But make sure, yeah, you look them up, look up all the stuff, and support WrestlePro. Pat Buck, all those guys, Kevin Matthews, Brian Myers. And I'll stop rambling. And my plugs, Electric City Wrestling Fans on Facebook, the group page. Please like, join, have your friends join, all that good stuff. And most importantly, iTunes, like, rate, review, subscribe, possibly 5 stars, leave a positive comment, and pass the word along, tell a friend. And that's all for now. And I will catch you guys on the next one. Thanks. You're where the scores that prove still on the right, flat crawling will stay right there.